So I'm Justina Saul. I'm number one, a friend of the British Consulate, and I'm also Director of Sales and Marketing for BTI Partners, who is the developer of the resort. So we are currently at the Grove Resort and Water Park, who's the host and sponsor today. It is a world-class resort comprised of 874 2- and 3-bedroom condos that function seamlessly as a hotel with an award-winning water park and an incredible array of amenities. The resort's over 90% sold out to individual owners, with a phase 4 set to begin construction any day. So if anybody would like a tour to know more, if you don't mind, if you're part of the BTI team or the Paramount team, put your hands up for us. A couple of people I would like to just recognize. The actual resort is run by Paramount Hospitality. Marco Manzi is sitting at the back here, who's the president. So phenomenal resort. We have Dominic Pickering, who's our executive director of West Coast, who's joined us, and many of our other team members here. So today, this discussion will conclude at 2:15, at which point we'll have additional media interviews that'll be available both in this room and in the next door rooms. For the rest of us, we'll be going just outside the doors here, where we're going to have a British garden party. And boy, did we pull out the best weather ever to do this. Yeah. It's incredible. Couldn't have planned it. So we hope that you'll stay and enjoy the event after, network with each other. It's been a long time, so it's about time, and we're thrilled to be here. Over the decades, UK visitors have played a key role in the evolution of Orlando. Pre-pandemic, Orlando welcomed more than 1 million UK visitors annually, making it the largest overseas market for the destination. Due to travel restrictions, the UK tourists have, for the most part, been kept out of the US since early 2020. That's about to change, and the White House recently announced travelers from the UK will be welcomed back on November the 8th, subject to vaccination, testing, and contact tracing requirements. Today, we have an all-star panel. Shows just what I think our community is about, that all of these important leaders have come together to discuss just how important the UK market is and the impact of British tourism on the theme park capital of the world. A role that the UK market plays in rebuilding our tourism industry post-pandemic. So without further ado, let's meet the panelists. I think most of them need no introduction. However, we're going to start with Her Majesty's Consul General, Nicolette Brent, MBE. Nicolette took up her appointment as Her Majesty's Consul General in Miami, August 2018. As Consul General, Nicolette leads the government's work promoting UK economic, commercial, political, and consular interests in Miami, the state of Florida, Puerto Rico, and the US Virgin Islands. Nicolette was awarded the MBE for her work in Northern Iraq. In the UK, Nicolette's roles have included head of the overseas security team, kidnap response manager in the emergency management department. Welcome, Nicolette. Thank you. In our middle seat here, I think everybody knows Mayor Demings, but Mayor Demings, so Jerry Demings was sworn in on December 4th, 2018, as the 5th elected mayor of Orange County, and is the first African-American to serve in the role. He oversees more than 8,000 Orange County employees and a $4.9 billion budget as the county's chief executive officer. His goal is to make Orange County the experimental prototype community of tomorrow by creating a community culture of innovation, collaboration, and inclusiveness. Mayor Demings became Orlando's first African-American police chief in 1998, and was elected the first African-American Orange County Sheriff in 2008. He was re-elected in 2012 and again in 2016. Welcome, Mayor Demings.
Well, thank you.
Sitting just to the right of Mayor Demings, we have President and CEO of VisitOrlando, Casandra Matej. Casandra is the president, VisitOrlando is the destination marketing organization of the most visited destination in the US and the theme park capital of the world. She's responsible for leading the branding, marketing, and selling of the Orlando destination globally to drive Central Florida's $76 billion tourism industry. The not-for-profit trade association also represents over 1,100 member companies. Casandra is the first female CEO in the organization's 37 history. She's been honored for her leadership in local communities and in national hospitality and meetings industries. She's been named one of the 50 most powerful people by Orlando Magazine, recognized as one of the top 25 women in the meetings industry by Meetings and Conventions Magazine, and listed the 500 most influential event professionals by BizBash. Her immediate focus is spurring the recovery of the powerful Orlando tourism industry, which pre-pandemic drew over 76 million visitors to the region. Thank you, Casandra, for being here. Going back over to the far left end here, we have, well, it's my left, sorry.
The far left before.
I'm sorry. But I put you right next to the Consul General. So at the end here, we have Phil Brown, CEO of Great Orlando Aviation Authority. Phil leads the GOA and the Orlando International Airport, which is the 10th busiest airport in the US, serving over 50.6 billion passengers annually. Phil has been with the airport since 2008, and during his tenure has guided the airport through 2 economic downturns, the COVID pandemic, and now the beginning of the resurgence in travel. He leads a $3.8 billion capital improvement project for the airport that features a $2.7 billion South Terminal complex and oversees the 2023 opening of Brightline rail service, making the airport the first in the nation served by intercity rail, providing seamless integration of air, ground, and rail transportation. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Simon Hawkins, head of USA for Virgin Atlantic and Delta. Sorry, Virgin Atlantic and Delta. So Simon has been based in the US since 2018. Under his expanded role, Simon heads up the Virgin Atlantic US organization. He is also embedded into Delta Airlines organization, focused on delivering US, UK commercial performance and delivering a seamless customer experience. Simon has worked across commercial teams since joining Virgin Atlantic and previously headed up sales development in the UK. He was previously based in the UK in 2013, where he led the implementation of the sales joint venture with Delta Airlines. Prior to joining Virgin Atlantic, Simon has worked in a number of actuary roles. Welcome, Simon. Thank you for coming from Atlanta. So I'm going to stop speaking in a second, but just to let everybody know our format today. So I'm going to ask the panelists questions. Once the panelist has answered, I don't think you really need me, because all of these, I think everybody has a strong perspective on. So please feel free to jump into any of the questions and let's just have a conversation. So very informal, very conversational. We'll move on to another question once we've finished with that one. We will leave if there are any media questions. So if you're in the media up at the front here, please put your hand up if you have any questions. We'd be happy to incorporate those. The last 15 minutes of the discussion, we'll be taking questions from the audience. So the last note is, please understand this is also streaming live. So while we have media and an audience here, we also have media and an audience around the world. So you have UK media watching, national media, and a couple of hundred people at this point. It will then be recorded and continue to be shown. So with that, we're going to start with Her Majesty's Consul General Nicolette Brent by asking, the ban on British travel for the past 18 months has had a massive economic effect on Central Florida, namely in travel and tourism sectors, but also in various areas of business and commerce. Please tell us the importance of the business and tourism connection between Britain and Orlando.
Thank you very much, Justine. And first of all, thank you so much to you for putting on this event and to Grove Park for hosting it. You are indeed a friend of the consulate, and any time that we need anything, Justine is absolutely amazing. So a huge thank you to you and to Grove Park for hosting. The UK-US relationship, it's extremely important. The Transatlantic Alliance is, we are allies like no others. That's the business relationship. So we have over $1 trillion invested in each other's economies. We provide jobs on both sides of the Atlantic. And then there's also the tourism element as well. Obviously, for Florida, that's hugely important. And one of the things I saw Kay Rawlins in the audience earlier, and one of the things we're looking at as well is the importance of the sports economy. So we're not just looking at normal tourists who are coming on holiday to the theme parks, we're looking at broadening that out. And I can't not mention COP26 and the importance of climate change and the environment, as that has just started in the UK today. And something that I've been talking to the cruise lines about back in Miami is the idea of maybe having voluntourism, as someone coined it, as sustainable tourism. So now's the chance that we are coming back. British nationals are coming back across the Atlantic, not just for business, but for tourism. Can we be a bit more sustainable when we're thinking about it? So if you do want any words on that, please let me know. We're encouraging people to commit to the Race to Zero, and you'll hear a lot more about that if you tune into any of the discussions on COP26 that are taking place for 2 weeks. But yeah, we're extremely proud of the team we have. We have 2 consular officers who are based out at the airport in Orlando. They're both here today, so any difficult questions I might be pointing their way. But I was just checking before, we're not just the only internationals that are represented at the airport here in Orlando. We're the only ones that do that anywhere else in the world. So that just shows, I think, the market that Orlando has, the fact that we have 2 consular officers who are based there, who are able to be immediately on hand to help with British nationals when they're in need, then they're right there. So yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else like to jump in on that?
Well, from a travel and tourism, you noted that the UK is our #1 overseas market, and it means big business for our community. And as mentioned, creation of jobs. Why the UK market is so important to us is we know that usually the travelers will stay a minimum of 11 days and enjoy not only Orlando, but the entire region. And so we are very excited about the border reopening. I had an opportunity last week to be in the UK to invite our friends back to Orlando. So this is a wonderful day, and I can't wait for the November 8th.
I think that we can all share that sentiment.
Yeah.
With that, Mayor Demings, talk to us if you would, please. As British travelers look to return to Orlando, what should they know about health and safety measures in place in the state of Orange County?
All right, thank you. Let me just lead off by saying that we are all excited about the relationship that we have enjoyed with the UK for centuries now. Certainly, as I sit on the stage here today with my fellow panelists, one of the things that I know is that wonderful accent that they have. Phil Brown and I have a different accent, but I always look forward to going to the UK and going to London. What I will tell you is that we are perfectly prepared to host people from around the globe. Here within our convention space, we were one of the first convention centers in North America to receive the Global Biorisk Advisory Council STAR accreditation, which essentially says that we were well prepared to make certain that individuals who visit us here with our convention business were able to do so safely, because we instituted various sanitary protocols and other health measures, as well as technology to ensure the safety of those who would patronize our convention center. We put some various protocols in place here as a community to ensure that people were safe. We were one of the only communities to have compliance or strike teams that were in place to ensure that our business community was doing everything that they could do to keep people safe. We were probably 1 year ahead of many of the largest other convention centers in the nation to get back open and to be doing business. We hosted here within our community the bubble that the NBA and Major League Soccer was able to play in, which really set the stage across the globe for how athletes were able to re-engage in person with crowds in their audiences. And so we're pretty proud about that. So that allowed our economy to open up much sooner than many other economies around the nation and around the globe. So we're excited about this opportunity that we have to re-engage with our friends from the UK as they come back in. I know that our airport is one of the best in the world, and our community is the #1 tourist destination here in North America, and we certainly want to share the wonderful experiences that we have here. Many of our theme parks have opened up new venues, and I believe that will allow for a different experience for those who will travel in from the UK.
Thank you, Mayor. So you mentioned the airport, so we're going to move over to over to Phil. So on November the 8th, the borders reopen for overseas travel. When exactly do UK flights resume, and when will we see a big influx in November and or over the holidays?
Well, I think Simon will be able to tell you how big it's going to be from Virgin Atlantic standpoint, but we've got Heathrow service, which will mark the first time that we've ever had Heathrow service with Virgin Atlantic on November the 8th. And then you've got Edinburgh, Manchester, British Airways starts November 15th. And then Aer Lingus is going to be having Manchester service. When Thomas Cook went under several years ago, that caused a temporary deficit in terms of capacity for the British, because Thomas Cook brought a lot of 747s over here when airlines used to fly 747s, and not many of them are flying anymore. But we're looking for full flights. Our operations people have been in discussions, detailed discussions with Customs and Border Protection, because that's the first impression for most British passengers. But we have some technology, facial recognition that can be utilized. And there's some apps that we were trying to make sure that everybody's aware of. But, you know, sometimes our challenge, particularly after folks haven't flown for a long time, is just getting used to flying again and then processing. So I think the burden for these flights are really going to fall on the airlines, because they're the ones that are going to, in the wisdom of our federal government, sort of pushed all the requirements on the airlines to determine who can board the aircraft and make that determination. And then there's some follow-up we'll have in testing, but we have some testing capability, not only in the community, but at the airport as well. I think from what I understand, and you may be able to clarify that, is the issue is really for the arrivals in terms of testing and follow-up, but on the return flight, there are no requirements for testing.
I think it's they have to have booked a test for their second day when they go back.
Right.
They need to prove
Right.
they've done that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So Simon, all eyes on you.
Wow. Hi, everyone. So on behalf of Virgin Atlantic, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Look, from an airline perspective, I think everyone here has said this, it's excitement, to be honest with you. Next Monday, the first Virgin Atlantic bird flies into the wonderful Orlando airport for the first time in probably 550 days, not that I'm counting. And it's not just one, it's two, because we have both London Heathrow and Manchester, and then we are also going to be expanding the service. From a demand perspective, it's been really encouraging ever since the Biden administration announced lifting 212F, which essentially banned British travelers from coming into the US. We've seen a 600% increase in bookings, particularly to Orlando, Manchester, London, across the board. We are operating very full flights for that first couple of weeks. And in addition to that, we've actually had to upgauge our aircraft onto a larger aircraft. So we've got we don't have a 747, that actually burns quite a lot of fuel, but we've got the 350 coming in, which is our flagship product as well. But super, super excited. In the crowd over there, Nikki, who works for Virgin Holidays, she is actually in Virgin Red today, which we love. She is going to be accepting a lot of those customers who are going to be obviously experiencing many of the attractions of Orlando. It is absolutely one of our flagship markets. We're called Virgin Atlantic, and we simply wouldn't be the Atlantic without, obviously, you know, the skies being open between the US and the UK. So we're incredibly excited to come back. You know, what we want to build towards, if you look at August 2018, we worked with Orlando Airport, and there were 6 of our, actually 5 747s actually parked at Orlando Airport. It was quite a very significant moment. It really shows our emphasis on the Orlando market and really bringing back that UK traveler to the market.
So with that, Casandra, I think you just returned from the UK for an event. So tell us, if you would please, about what you're hearing from the market and what attracts them to Orlando. Thank you, Simon. We're excited to have all the planes coming in.
So super excited, because that's a huge part of the piece of the puzzle, correct? So just returning from the UK, joined Brand USA, which is the national destination organization. And we had the opportunity to meet with airlines. We had opportunity to meet with travel trades such as Virgin Holidays. We had opportunity to meet with a lot of press. And there were about 20 CEOs from various US cities that we joined forces to really make a statement that we are super excited that the US is open, and it's never been easier to get to the US and particularly to Orlando. And so had the opportunity, and again, hearing a lot of the same things from various airlines, that Orlando is either number one or in their top 3 of bookings right now. So that is something to really celebrate. So we're going to see a lot of reward from that pent up demand, I think, both late November into the December holidays, but also looking at this upcoming summer. So when you talk about what do we talk about Orlando, I think that I have the best job in the world because I get to sell such a wonderful family-friendly destination. People want to know what are the updates. They also are in line of what are our safety and health protocols, as well as, is there accessibility? But right now we are positioned in such a wonderful way. We're celebrating a major milestone with the 50th anniversary at Disney. Many of our attractions are opening up new offerings. We were able to announce last week in 2022, the International Peppa Pig theme park is opening up in Orlando. And so I think really what the message is for Orlando to our British friends is that we are that same trusted destination that you may have experienced before. And we have all those wonderful trusted brands that take safety and health very seriously, but that you can enjoy our destination, bring back the family, and have those special moments that you're going to make a lifetime lasting memory. And so we have an amazing story to tell because people are ready to get back together with family members that they may have not seen in the last 18 months. So it's really good times.
It's fantastic.
If I may,
Yes,
I think
please.
look, the Brits are ready to go. They're ready to come back. And look, from a booking perspective, I echo those points. And what we're also seeing is actually UK customers who, they've been stuck inside for actually quite a lot of the year. They're ready to go, but they're ready to upgrade the experience as well. So we're definitely seeing some trends there, which will obviously knock on to the Orlando market as well. So ready to go, and can't wait for next Monday.
I don't know when the time would be right to be talking about lessons learned from this. It's something from my background in emergency management. We always look at lessons learned afterwards. And one of the hardest things that I've had to deal with is not only being separated from my family and friends, but also hearing from different people who are in some really quite difficult circumstances, family members seriously unwell, trying to get across for immigration. I realize that's a federal rather than a state issue, but the more that we can do to either sort of sort some sort of immigration, make it easier for Brits to be able to come across the Atlantic and vice versa, and the same for trade as well. We would love to have a future trade agreement with the US. So on both trade and tourism, let's try and sort of cut the bureaucracy, tighten up those agreements and make sure we make it as easy as possible for people to be able to do that.
That's another point to bring is that we love the tourism and it's been great, but for long haul flights, it's nice to have the premium pay for the airlines. Typically that's in the business, but there are a lot of things in Central Florida, technology, simulation, a lot of the things that are going on. We mentioned, there's a focus now on the aviation fuels and making them more sustainable and less impactful from a CO2 emissions. There's a lot of research that's going on right now in Central Florida on those very issues. I mean, Virgin Atlantic took part several years ago, pre-pandemic, in the first flight that we had biofuels used at the airport. Now it's a matter of scaling up. But there are a lot of synergies. There are a lot of British citizens that own homes in Central Florida, and they haven't been able to reach those homes in quite a while. So it'll be good to have those folks back as well. And the only other point I would make, you ask about what should British citizens expect? Well, through Mayor Demings' leadership and his skills in crisis management, we've weathered COVID, we weathered the Delta virus and now the variant. And now we're at the point where the positivity rate is below 5%. So people can expect when they come here, it's going to be a healthy environment.
Indeed. I think everybody is booking their tickets and it's safe to come, so come on over. Mayor, during your visit to the World Travel Market Conference, which incidentally is going on at the moment, which focuses on leisure travel, you also managed to add a business component to your trip and successfully recruited a cybersecurity company to expand into Orange County. Could you talk about the importance of cross-pollinating efforts based on what our other panelists just mentioned in order to promote UK tourism and business development into the region?
Yes, it's hard to believe that it's been nearly 2 years now, or almost exactly 2 years. We left in November of 2019 to attend the World Travel Market meeting. And I can tell you that it was a successful meeting. We had the opportunity to have some joint meetings with London and partners to talk about our economic, trade, and tourism opportunities here. We were successful in recruiting a cybersecurity company that located here within our community. They'll be doing a grand opening here soon. But we also had the opportunity to talk about much of the other business that we have to offer here within the community. We certainly talked about the tourism industry, but we talked about what we're doing with some technology, some innovation here with modeling and simulation and training here within our community. And had the opportunity to do an interview with CNN London, and the young woman who interviewed me, her father just happened to be a professional golfer who lives here within this community. And so sometimes we think about the world being so massive, but sometimes it's a small world after all. And we had the opportunity while there to also have other meetings, and there was a mission and resiliency conference that was going on there. And Roseanne Harrington, my chief of staff, is here somewhere in the audience. She and I had the opportunity to go and attend a function while there. And so it was a great opportunity to exchange ideas. And as we work in partnership with the Orlando Economic Partnership here to expand business opportunities, I believe the future is bright for business development here within our community. And certainly, as it has been indicated, we have a lot of Brits who live here within the community who are investing dollars in businesses here, and we look to strengthen that as well. And vice versa, we have a lot of our residents who are investing in the UK as well. And so we look forward to what that means for all of us as we re-engage. Phil Brown mentioned the fact that we do have relatively low transmission rates now for the virus within our community. We are no longer under a state of emergency, and so that bodes well for us. And what that means to keeping things low is still going to be part of the focus that I will have going forward. We are watching very carefully the rate of transmission of the virus within our community. We do weekly testing of our wastewater treatment facilities to identify variants that may be here, and that way we can take proactive measures early in order to get control of the potential for a spread. But I believe that we're in a better place now because the overwhelming majority of our residents, 75+%, have now gotten vaccinated. The promise of the vaccine for children under the age of 12, between 5 and 11, is fantastic as that becomes more available. So I think for the entire globe, this puts us in a better position. So let us not look backwards, but look forward as we look to the future and what that means for all of us as we re-engage from a business perspective.
Indeed. So it seems as though we're evolving with this with the flights coming back. With that, I'd like to ask Casandra, what is Visit Orlando doing to regain the British market, and how do you see these changes?
So we've been ongoing conversations with our key customers in the UK, but in August, we did launch our campaign, which is Wonder Remains. We want people to know that that wonder of Orlando is here and ready when the time is right for you. We have been traveling, as mentioned last week. We also are relaunching our travel academy for the travel trade to make sure that they know what the new hotel properties, what the new attractions are, and really can sell the destination. So we're looking at it in a multifaceted approach. We're partnering with airlines, we're partnering with our travel trade, and we're doing our full marketing campaign. So we feel like with those avenues that we're reaching a far reach in London and inviting people to come back to Orlando.
It's exciting. Simon, further to Cassandra's point there, what are you seeing in terms of timing and party makeups for travelers to Orlando? Has it changed post-COVID?
It hasn't changed significantly, to be honest with you. I think in terms of the parties that are coming, I think actually a couple of days ago when there was further clarification of the rules of entry, which means if you're British and unvaccinated, you can still travel if you're under 18 with your family, as long as you have a post-test when you arrive in the US, has really helped and to really clarify those restrictions. From a passenger perspective, we're still seeing those groups, we're still seeing families. We're seeing business as well really start to pop as well, which is really encouraging to see from an airline perspective and obviously from an economic perspective as well. And in terms of the travel period, I think the next 2 weeks is very like that classic pent-up demand. Sadly, in the last 2 years, we've become very used to kind of closing down markets, reopening, and really understanding the flows of traffic. So I think the next 2 weeks is probably predominantly more kind of like VFR type traffic. Many of the British nationals living over here, they haven't seen family and friends, so they'll be coming over. And then we're definitely seeing that kind of upward trajectory moving into next year for the classic British vacation, Florida vacation traveler. So pretty encouraging. I would say just in line with this comment, the key day coming up is actually Black Friday in the UK. And we have obviously partnered together and done a lot of activity to really focus on that customer and bring people back to Orlando. So I think it's going to be really fascinating to see that pickup in traffic as we get to there. It used to be the peak booking period for the UK to the US, particularly was around the Christmas period. And it's got weeks and weeks earlier. Now it's in Black Friday. Now Black Friday is 3 weeks before that. It's at the beginning of November. And the campaign we're kind of doing, which I think is really interesting in the UK, is all about buying an experience for your family instead of buying consumer goods. A lot of us have been stuck inside for quite a long period of time, probably going on Amazon, buying lots of bits and pieces, but this is more about the experience and something very memorable. And I think the partnership with Orlando really does bring that to life.
Phil, we've mentioned a couple of times that we have the new Heathrow flights coming, but pre-COVID, London Heathrow to MCO was the largest unserved market between Europe and the US. With the reopening, VS will finally launch this long sought after route for MCO on November the 8th and BA on November the 15th. What's the significance of MCO having London Heathrow as part of the international route map?
Well, it's connecting passengers. It's what it's all about. You know, like 2015, people wondered why in the world people would fly from Orlando to Dubai. And it wasn't because, and Dubai is a nice destination, but it was the beyond traffic. And that Vicky Jaramillo and our team in marketing has been focused on that for a long time. And we've worked hard. We had an initiative pre-COVID to get Heathrow traffic in. And as many things happened during COVID, things got accelerated. So I think the service from Virgin Atlantic was accelerated, but it means the ability to attract people beyond London that will make connections into Heathrow. It'll be good for the airlines. It'll be good for us because it will be more people from more destinations. So it's just another flight that you can take and you're one stop away from anywhere in the world if you're flying from Orlando. So that's really what it means. There are numbers you can put to it, 1,200 passengers a day or more. But that's really the focus of the strategy, is to be a spoke on the hub and make sure that we have the service to provide, because it's all great in getting the service, but then you have to execute. And so that's really what we've been focused on at the airport is people haven't been used to flying. So there are going to be some glitches. We just need to be able to deal with them, address them quickly, and put the customer service at the forefront and show folks some real Florida hospitality.
Thank you. So I'm going to jump to Nicolette. So did you have
I
something?
wanted
there?
to
Yeah.
jump in and just ask Phil if passengers will continue to be able to get tested at the airport for.
Yeah, we've got a testing operation that's ongoing. We'll probably, it's been a pilot project. We'll probably compete that because there are a number of testing companies that also can get vaccinated. So to the extent that, the rules change for the 2 to 11 range, I'm pretty sure that the folks at the vaccination center at the airport will be able to accommodate that because they're accommodating boosters now.
And I'd like to add on a comment is that we also have a mini campaign called Stay Calm and Play On, because I think to the point, if it is your first flight that you're taking, you've got to pack your patience, you've got to make your reservations, get to the airport earlier, but also, I think this has certainly heightened the value of our travel trade on making sure that people understand that you need to make reservations for restaurants, you need to make reservations for the theme parks. And so right now, during this phase of getting back to travel, things are a little bit different. So, rely on your travel trade, rely on destination organizations to get that information. Of course, our airline partners, that's key to make sure you're on their website to know what paperwork that you're going to need. But once you get through that initial, once you're on the plane, it is fantastic. So, but it's just a little bit of a different time right now.
I think it's easily understandable. Thank you. So Nicolette, you had mentioned that you have 2 consular officers at the airport. Tell us how you interact. How does your team support the Brits traveling over here?
I guess it just depends what they need. We're trying just to see exactly what it is. If they've lost their passports, we can issue emergency travel documents. Having the staff here at the airport means that people don't have to make a long trek down to Miami or elsewhere. They're also on hand for, unfortunately, we've had lots of incidents of either deaths, really tragic cases, and the staff can then be there to provide that support, liaising with the excellent Orange County authorities. I know that I went and met the victim advocacy team that you have, and they go out of their way to try and provide assistance. So between the consular officers and the Orange County team and the local administration, everyone is trying to support Brits if they do get into difficulties. But hopefully if they do things like read our travel advice, have travel insurance, then hopefully they won't. And if the worst happens, then we've got a team available to help them.
Yeah, we had plenty of experience when Thomas Cook went under because there
Oh,
were a lot
yes.
so
I'm
we've
still
been working-
traumatized by those couple of weeks, don't worry. Your airport was so helpful though, and the airlines. I know that British Airways were even doing things like busing people across to Tampa once we'd sort of run out of space in Orlando. Everyone just pulled together. And I think that's what we've kind of learned during the pandemic as well. We've got all of these great contacts and it's all about working together. We did the same with the cruise industry when COVID hit and we were trying to repatriate passengers. That was sort of 4 weeks of trying to get people, trying to get the permission to allow them into Florida, which is another issue altogether, but and then trying to make arrangements for them to return home. But working really, really closely with those travel companies, with the airlines, and making it as smooth as possible, because you want those Brits to come back afterwards. You want them to feel like they've been looked after, and no matter what's happened, they might still want to come back, because Orlando is a great place to come. I do remember in Thomas Cook, actually, I was talking to one couple as they were waiting for their flight. It was their 3rd holiday to Florida that year. They were sort of pre-retirement, they weren't fully retired, and they just said they absolutely love coming. They hire a car, they go to different areas. They first came to Orlando for a holiday, and then they use Orlando as a jumping off point. And people do that. They come on holiday, they then buy a second home or retirement home, or they spot an opportunity for business. So grab them while they're here and get them to come back.
One of the things that you're hearing here is about the collaborative spirit that we have here. I believe that the relationship that Orange County has with the city of Orlando and with Visit Orlando and others here within our community is as strong as it has ever been. And so we do work together to ensure that the experience that our international visitors have here is one that is very, very positive. We certainly work with our local, federal, and state law enforcement authorities to make sure that they are very understanding and accommodating as they encounter our visitors from across the globe as well. So.
Virgin Atlantic has a little bit of an advantage because we've had the same person that's been running the Virgin Atlantic shop in Orlando since 1989, she actually was just over for the Bucks Dolphins game and Wembley. So she understands all aspects of the operation from Orlando Airport and Virgin Atlantic.
And I think with Brits coming over, the biggest question that we're getting is actually, what's it like the other side? Because don't underestimate the fact that people haven't been over here for 2 years. And other than looking at news and media reports, I've had the luxury to go between the US and the UK over the last 3 or 4 months. And I can tell you, having gone to the UK for the first time, I was like, what's it like? What's London like? It's not very different. It's back to normal, to be honest with you. But I think over on the UK, they're asking the same question about what is America like? They look at news headlines, media, and they're probably jumping to some conclusions about mask mandates and policy or lack of policy. So it's all about the communication with the customer as well. And actually with that, it's the communication with the customer prior to flying as well, because there are a lot more restrictions in place now, post-pandemic, I'm going to say. Hopefully we're getting through this pandemic. But it's all about having the right contact details for the customer and communicating them systematically from 21 days out from departure. So they've got all of the right documentation. I think it was noted earlier that airlines are the gatekeepers now for these customers coming into the country. So with my US hat on, we have to do all of the checks from all of the airports we operate into. And there are spot checks that take place when you land into Heathrow. So when you land into Heathrow, you can still use the electronic gates as a US citizen or British citizen. When you go through, you could be interviewed by somebody saying, okay, I need to see all of the exact documents. If they haven't got all the exact documents, then we as an airline will be fined as well. So we are very much the gatekeepers, and it's the same on the other side with the new restrictions that are in place from the Biden administration. So, having customers that are looking at government websites, that are working with travel agents or direct with the airline is absolutely fundamental to that travel ribbon moving forward.
Yeah, the collaboration, as you said, Mayor, is more important than ever, because it wouldn't be possible to do all of that if everybody wasn't in such great communication. So I know that we anticipate having full flights and the Brits coming back as they were, but let's stop and talk for a minute about the numbers pre-COVID, and let's talk about what British tourism means to the community from an economic point of view. So Phil, if you wouldn't mind just starting us out, give us a brief history of the UK aviation market with MCO, and what's the economic impact of the UK flights over the years?
Well, we've had British service since the 80s. Started out seasonal and then went to scheduled service in 88 with British Airways, and then Virgin Atlantic started up about the same time. That's when Jennifer Johnson, the area manager that I mentioned, came to work from JFK down here. So it's about 1 million passengers a year pre-COVID. I mean, our international service pre-COVID was about 14% of the total passenger traffic. In February of 2020, we were tracking 51 million annual passengers. So we had about 7 million international visitors. Right now, I looked at the numbers that we just got for the end of September. It's about 1.5 million passengers. So when that starts to scale up, that number will grow. And so all you have to do is take the statistics that Casandra mentioned earlier about how long they stay and how much they spend, and do the math. And it's a pretty impactful area of the economy to have British travelers back.
Somebody once told me at one of the theme parks that we were actually, so they said the UK are number 3 for tourists to Florida generally, but they're the favorite because they spend the most. because it's your average British holidaymaker. They're coming as a family. They are saving up all year because it's their dream holiday is to come to Florida. So they they save, they then max out their credit cards when they get here, pouring all of that money into your economy and then pay it off and start saving for the next year. They kind of, I know that you get a lot of Canadians here and a lot of Brazilians, some have second homes, but we really do. We come here and we do our utmost to spend.
It's about $1.5 billion annually economic impact to Central Florida.
And I can tell you, as we've mentioned, pre-pandemic, it was right at that 1 million of visitation. In this next year in 22, looking at the data, we're forecasting to be around 765,000. And then we see ourselves by the end of 2023 being pre-COVID numbers very easily. And we're being very optimistic, but we just think that based on everything and talking to the airlines, talking to the market, is that we're really going to be ahead and be at full by the end of 2023 for sure.
Unbelievable. And Mayor, from an Orange County government standpoint, I mean, further to the same question really, but what's the local impact from your perspective, and why are British visitors so important?
Well, the local impact is significant, in particular as it relates to the tourist development tax receipts. We are able to have the type of quality of life that we have here within our community because of the visitation that we have. And certainly the Brits do spend a lot of money here. That's how ultimately we all get paid here within our community. So thank you.
You're welcome.
My family thanks you. But also we are able to make investments into the arts and cultural affairs here because of the tourist development tax, a tax on heads and beds. And because of that, we've been able to invest in our cultural tourism efforts here. We've been able to invest in many of our local amenities, our Performing Arts Center, our Camping World Stadium, our Orange County Convention Center. And so because of that, we have seen a significant rebound post-pandemic in our collections. We had back in July, we had record-breaking numbers comparatively speaking since the pandemic. We collected more dollars during that single month in July of any July since we had been collecting the TDT dollars here within our community. So we're not quite back to where we want to be in all months, but we have done very well. And so we believe that our tourist development tax receipts will, within the next couple of years, be at the pre-pandemic level.
Fantastic. So I'm going to open up if the audience has any questions. We have an incredible opportunity with these esteemed panelists. So if you have any questions, please put your hand and we'd love to hear from you. We have got a good representation from the whole community here. Go ahead, George.
VisitOrlando.
Yes.
What are we projecting this year?
So we don't know the numbers of projection. And when you look at 2020, we were about 50% of the 76 million visitors we had welcomed the year before, I think. And we're very optimistic that it's going to be over that number, which was around 35 million. We really saw a very strong summer. And so if that's any indication of what's happening domestically, I think that's going to translate internationally. And so we should round out the year pretty strong, as well as some of our convention business has been very strong in the second quarter or the last quarter of the year. So I'm not sure on the exact number, but I know it'll be north of 35 million. Say that again?
Can I do a follow-up?
Sure.
What do you estimate for Christmas holiday?
What I can tell, yeah. So, Sure. So what I will tell you is obviously that is a traditional peak time. And one of the metrics that we look at is hotel occupancy. And many of our hotels are going to be in the 90 percentile for hotel occupancy during the holiday time. So I would tell you that is very comparable to 2019 numbers.
Sandy?
Pre-COVID, there was quite a large percentage of visitation numbers that didn't actually night. About the actual visitation numbers. As I'm telling you, I'm only interested in the people that are overnight. Do you see a shift in that now? About that percentage scale changing?
That is a really good question, and we can do a little deeper. So I will say anecdotally, I think you will see those numbers increase of overnight stay in Orlando, because again, many of our international friends have not been able to travel in the last couple of years. And I think Orlando is going to be the focus of their holiday. But what I also will tell you is, right, we definitely look at the overnight stays because that's what impacts the tourism development tax. But at the same time, those day trippers that stay here, you know, they are definitely contributing to the sales tax of our community, which obviously enhances the quality of life for those of us that get to live in Central Florida.
The weather's going to be fantastic.
Beautiful.
Look at what we've done today.
I know.
That's what we have. Vicky?
I have a question for Simon. Simon, now that you're flying in Heathrow to MCO, how has the point of, have you been able to pick up market share from your partners like KLM and Air France as far as connectivity connect over Heathrow, where before you couldn't have without that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at Heathrow overall, 40% of Heathrow is connecting. And operating from London Heathrow certainly opens that opportunity. We're actually in a expanded joint venture with Air France KLM. So they're coding from Amsterdam and Paris onto Heathrow, and we're definitely seeing a really nice uptake in that volume. I can't give commercially sensitive figures, but it's good. You'll see more French and Dutch people here moving forward.
Simon?
Touch briefly on the trade agreement between, or lack of maybe, between the US and the UK. I know obviously post-Brexit that was a big thing and COVID came along. How is that progressing? And from an outside perspective, not much is happening, but maybe you could give us an update.
So I'm going to pause just before you answer, Consul General. So because we need to have it on, we have an audience that needs to hear the question. So that was a complex question, Simon. So now I have to repeat that. So
I can answer it and
yes,
build in the
would you
question if
please?
like.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you,
it's a
Consul
really
General.
good question about the free trade agreement and what was happening before and where we are now. So one of the first places that the Trade Secretary came when the new administration came in was to the US. It remains our #1 priority. We are doing other trade agreements in the meantime. So you'll have seen we recently signed with Australia and with New Zealand. We're extremely keen to sign a trade agreement with the US. The working group negotiators all still continue to have those discussions. And I would imagine that in the margins of things like the COP26 summit, there are discussions ongoing as well. So we're ready to go. We just had the Minister for Exports for Department for Trade down in Miami and Fort Lauderdale just over the last week. And one of the things he was doing, he was anxious to be speaking to people that are going to have influence over a potential trade agreement. And my colleague, Alex Miles, he's working with our senior trade policy advisor who's up in Atlanta on a resolution in the Florida legislature on the importance of the UK-US relationship, so that hopefully anyone is asked in Florida, then they're ready to sign it. So we're doing all of the work in the background and we're ready to go. So yeah, we're very keen. Does that answer your question? Okay. Okay.
Marco?
Simon, talking to our wholesalers, and they've been stating from the UK that there's a lot of pent-up demand, and actually the bookings have increased tremendously on their backlog. But they commented on airlift being an issue. But can you tell me a little bit about your company on Virgin's perspective on providing more lifts into our destination?
Try to state the question in the
Okay, in answer to your question around providing more airlift, because there's a lot of demand coming into Orlando. Yeah, that's definitely the case. We've definitely seen an exponential increase in the bookings. It's a very dynamic time for an airline and from a travel perspective. And I think, as I said before, I think what we've become really used to is restarting operations, whether it's in Orlando or around the country. And I think even working in the industry for 9 or 10 years, you've become very aware of what it actually takes and the technicalities. It's not just kind of dusting off your car and getting it out of the garage. So there is definitely a time lag with that. We've upgauged our aircraft, and I'd also point to the fact that we're also in a joint venture with Delta. So although it's not coming directly into Orlando, we're also seeing a lot of passengers coming via New York and coming via Atlanta into Orlando as well. But as we move forward into next year, we are, shall we say, upgauging more of our aircraft, and there's some exciting announcements that will come out with regards to Orlando and our lift. But it's absolutely a focus of ours. I think it's been well documented, some of the challenges of the industry we've had from a passenger perspective for the last year. We are going where the demand is, and we will deliver more seat capacity into the market to really support that.
And just one quick follow-up to that. Q1, do you see a more than usual uptick?
As of right now, we're still in the infancy, and I think where we're going to get to is actually for Black Friday. I think that's going to be when I'll be able to answer that question fully. I think, as I said before, we're definitely seeing really strong underlying demand, but as we get to that November time, that's when it's going to say to us, okay, we're back to normal. I'm pretty confident that we're going to have a very good Q1 and Q2.
Yes, please.
Just wondering about the schedule for the terminal to the airport.
Phil, can you just restate the question?
Yeah. The question was, what's the schedule for the opening of the new South Terminal at Orlando International Airport? The schedule right now is for the building to be completed at the end of February. So we're pushing hard on that. We're wrestling with what everybody else in the world's wrestling with just supply chains. So we're in a pretty good position, but we're going to have to push pretty hard to get there. It's just the nature of the business, and this is the hardest part of the project. We're over 80% complete, but we've got the finishes and everything to do, and you've got multiple crews, so they're working very diligently to get the work done. I'm down there usually about every 2 weeks, and there's some major improvements, but there's some headwinds that we're going to have to deal with. Operationally, we don't expect that we'll go operational until after spring break, because it's just too difficult a challenge to try and move an airline at peak season. April 17th is Easter this year, so it's later than usual. So we're probably going operational when everybody's been trained and tested and can execute on, because you got an entirely new building, you've got new systems, you got a new baggage system. So we're looking at the May, June timeframe probably to go operational. It'll be both international and domestic. The anchor carrier down there will be JetBlue, but we're also looking at other international carriers because we have a federal inspection station that's slated to open there, which is Customs and Immigration. We will have to close one of our existing stations because we won't have sufficient staffing from Customs and Border Protection to operate two. So the Airside 4, which is where Virgin Atlantic will fly on, will continue to operate. Airside 1 will have to shut down, but that's for the most part has been Latin American traffic. And so there's going to have to be a movement around of some of the airlines that are Airside 4 and Airside 1 that will go down to the new terminal. I think the good news is that we've got 15 piers, gates down there. They're capable of handling both international and domestic. So it's not strictly one gate's an international gate, one's domestic. We plan that ahead of time. And if it's narrow body aircraft, which more and more seems to be the prevalence of aircraft, even transatlantic, we can, on those 15 gates, we can park 20 aircraft because you have the ability with the setup to actually unload, disembark two narrow body airlines aircraft at once on several of the gates.
Fantastic. Okay, we'll take one more question and then I'm going to ask the panelists to just kind of think how you would like to close this out because we have been speaking for an hour already. So we'll get your final thoughts, each of you, in just a moment. But yes, question at the back, Kieran?
For me, the highlight of the is
Please restate the question and the answer.
Will
The
there be
question
booze on
was,
board?
am I going to get a gin and tonic flying on Virgin Atlantic? Yes, you will. So during COVID, we obviously stripped back to minimize some of the contact of some of our products and service, which is much loved. We have brought back your gin and tonic, so rest assured you will have that.
Have an entire country of angry travelers.
Yeah.
Mayor, let's start with you. What would you like to say? We have media watching from around the world, people watching from around the world. What would you like to tell them about Orlando?
I would like to say to all of those who are watching from around the world, we are prepared to welcome you back with open arms into the world's greatest playground.
Yay!
Casandra.
Well, to add on that, it's never been easier to get to Orlando. We love our British friends. We are open for business, and there are so many new and exciting things to enjoy. Just go to VisitOrlando.com.
Simon?
I think I'd leave it with, we're just very proud as an organization at Virgin Atlantic and also really excited to see our first flights come in next week for a long period of time. Excited to bring back a lot of Brits, but also connect family, friends, and corporations around the world. So roll on next Monday.
Phil?
What he said. We're looking forward to it as well. It's great to walk through the terminal and hear a multiplicity of accents. I don't like listening to my kind of accent all the time. But we've had Spanish, Portuguese, French, but we do need some Anglican accents.
I'm following up then.
Yeah, so in my
Consul
best
General.
English accent then. I think building on what the mayor was saying, you're prepared for British travellers. I would just ask British travellers to be prepared in return. So read that travel advice, go on gov.uk, make sure you're prepared, make sure you have travel insurance, that you've got all of the right forms, the CDC, it'd be the NHS paperwork with you. So double check what's needed and be prepared for when you come, but enjoy yourselves. Thank you. And thank you again, Justine and
Thank
Grove
you.
Park. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you to our esteemed panelists. What an incredible discussion. Thank you. So with that, I think we've got a few media interviews that we're going to be doing. And for everybody else, we're going to have a reception outside again with our weather that we couldn't possibly have fabricated any better than we did. So Mayor Demings, thank you so much for coming today. Casandra, Matej, CEO of Visit Orlando, Simon Hawkins, head of USA, Virgin Atlantic, Phil Brown, CEO of Great Orlando Aviation Authority, and Her Majesty's Consul General, Nicolette Brent. One more time, thank you very much.